deal. He was balling. I mean, before he got hurt, and again, it gives him another toy, another weapon. But no, I'm not going with them over the Tampa Bay Bucks. I watched the Tampa Bay Bucks on defense. They swarm, they hunt. They'll make life hard for Aaron Rodgers. They'll at least break serve a couple times. And then when I look at that Packers defense, I just don't know that they're good enough to consistently be able to do. And by the way, we just get to, Antonio Brown, come here. You ready? Go ahead and let's get in here too. So it's just going to get filthier on offense for the Bucs.
You see the odds on your screen. The Buccaneers are the favorites to come out of there, and that is right. I mentioned Rodgers has thrown 2 picks this year. Both of them were practically consecutive in that game against Tampa Bay. Okay, speaking of good games, we've just gotten started because we're looking ahead to Sunday now, and there are great games on the schedule. Let's look at those. The Seahawks at the Bills. With a win, Seattle would match its best record through 8 games in franchise history, while Buffalo could match its best start since 1993. So good game there. Elsewhere, Colts hosting the Ravens, who've scored at least 20 in 30 straight games. That's tied with the 2012 through 14 Broncos for the longest streak in NFL history. And then the 2 players that have thrown for more touchdowns than anyone in history will go head-to-head. Drew Brees and the Saints up against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. They are a combined 84 years old. And I would bring Diana into the conversation here. Diana, obviously this is the spotlight matchup, but we haven't seen Michael Thomas since these teams played in week 1. And now I'm hearing about Drew Brees not practicing. What is the latest on those 2?
Yeah, let's start with Michael Thomas. We know he hasn't been out on the field since week 1, which is insane to think about. We know he's been dealing with an ankle injury. He's been dealing with a hamstring, some discipline. But I was told that things are progressing very well there, that the Saints are expecting to have him back for that Sunday night game, which obviously opens up this entire offense. But at the quarterback spot, Drew Brees, we've seen him take Wednesdays off in the past, or at least at a limited role. So that's pretty normal. Having him not practice yesterday certainly put up some flags. But from what I can understand, the plan is for Drew Brees to play on Sunday. Obviously, things could change today, Friday at practice. They want to see how he feels. But the feeling there is that he should be good to go on Sunday, Greeny.
All right, that's obviously critical because that's the matchup that we're all looking forward to seeing. So we saw these teams week 1. That feels like about 20 years ago at this point. And the Buccaneers have looked so much better since then. RC, what is the one thing in your mind that decides this game?
Championship defense. Coming into this year, the reason people thought the Saints would win wasn't because of Drew Brees. They thought this defense would be phenomenal, and it just haven't. It hasn't been that way. It hasn't been great. It hasn't been dominant as we saw them be sometimes last year. But we've seen the Tampa Bay Buccaneers be absolutely dominant. We've seen the Tampa Bay Buccaneers totally destroy the Packers. We watched them go sideline to sideline against the Las Vegas Raiders. And we talk about these 2 linebackers as being the best duo in the NFC, in Devin White and Levante David. Well, this week on the other side, they have Alvin Kamara. This week on the other side, the Saints have Tom Brady. Whatever defense decides to step up and play championship-level football, that's who wins this game. It's not about the 84 years playing quarterback. It's about the young gunners and the hunters playing defense for these teams. And if they get after these offenses, that's the team that comes up victorious.
Well, we've talked a lot about the Tampa defense, it feels like. Rob Ninkovich, how about the Saints defense? What do they need to do to get this one Sunday?
Look, they got to get after Tom Brady. And if you look at Tom's wins this season, he's been pressured half the time. The 2 losses that they have, he's been pressured basically double the amount. The first game against the Saints, it got to him 10 times. So if you can get pressure on Tom Brady, that's going to affect him the most. We saw that with the Chicago game where he's rolling his eyes at Khalil Mack when he's on the ground. You can't expect Tom to be as confident and throw down the field like he has if he has all day. So the Saints, it's vital for them to get after Tom, to make him uncomfortable, get him off the spot early in the game, too. It's got to be within the first series. Make sure that he realizes it's going to be a long one, because if you can do that, then he's going to start to think, all right, man, I don't have the time here. I can't sit in here all day. So it's going to be vital for the Saints to get after Tom early in this game.
Another huge storyline, obviously, is the Buccaneers. For the first time, will have Antonio Brown. Diana, what are you hearing out of Tampa about how he looks as he's working with them this week for the first time?
Okay, I went straight to the spectacular Bucs defense to ask them, what are they seeing from Antonio Brown? Because, the offense is going to say he's great. And the way it was described to me is that Antonio Brown looks spectacular. One player is saying, this is a guy who's got fresh legs. There's a significant difference just from a health standpoint between Antonio Brown and the rest of the receivers. And we've all followed Antonio Brown on social media in the past, and we know how hard he works. So in terms of his fitness, he is right there. So he's definitely going to be used as a big weapon on Sunday night.
All right, so let's see just how big we think it's going to be. RC, I'm going to give you some numbers. More or less, 4.5 catches, 78.5 yards, 0.5, half a touchdown, more or less for Antonio Brown Sunday night, RC.
Greeny, absolutely more. Listen, Antonio Brown, you just heard Diana say it. Antonio Brown's fresher than a peppermint right now. And he's going to come out ready to prove things. And we know that when Tom Brady has a guy, he understands how to target him and get him his catches. Antonio Brown will be big in this win for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week.
Wow, if he makes that big an impression that quickly, that will be fascinating to watch. Guys, sit tight. Meanwhile, Diana, let's go through some notes here and let's run the hurry up because there's injury stuff out there to get to. What do we have this morning on Mark Ingram?
Yeah, let's start there. Mark Ingram has really been having a hard time dealing with this ankle injury. We know he missed that big game against the Steelers last week, and they certainly needed him out there for that run game that we know is the nucleus of this offense. But it's looking like, once again, it's going to be a struggle for him to get back and suit up this Sunday, to get back up on that roster, as he has not practiced this week once again. And normally with Baltimore, when they're in that position and not practicing on Thursday, they most likely are not active on Sunday.
Chris Jones.
So meantime, yes, Chris Jones with the Chiefs. So he's on the reserve COVID-19 list right now, Greeny. We don't know if he has tested positive for it or if he's just been around those in that close contact situation with people with that COVID-19. So in terms of when he was tested, will determine whether or not he will be active on Sunday. So that's really going to be the key point. We should probably know more later today. And meantime, you have the Raiders. We saw them get really handed down some stiff penalties from the NFL. And this is the league sending a message, Greeny, to basically say everybody better tighten this up. These guys broke the rules multiple times, and this is really the reason why that they lost that 2021 sixth-round draft pick, on top of a $500,000 fine against the organization and a $150,000 fine against John Gruden, who we all saw on television not wearing his mask.
Yeah, we had speculated a few weeks ago, would the league come down on them in such a way that it will really dissuade other teams, and especially when you see these cases spiking around the country. Diana, excellent. Stay there. Obviously, more football from the NFL as we go, but the biggest game of the weekend is actually tomorrow. We are a day away from the biggest game of the season, as we will see DJ Uiagalelei leading top-ranked Clemson into South Bend to take on the number 4 Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Here's Dabo Swinney talking about how this game fits into his team's journey.
You know, every team has a story, every team has challenges, every team has a journey, and this is just part of this team's journey. And to be quite honest with you, it's just another week in 2020. So, you know, you embrace the suck. That's what we say around here, is to embrace the suck.
All right, so that's a fascinating way to put it. David's still with me, and Heather Dinich joins us today. And Heather, nobody covers the college football playoff like you do. So with the idea in mind that, in theory, these two teams could wind up meeting it again in about a month, which of them do you think needs this game tomorrow more?
Well, Greeny, I think Notre Dame needs it more because when you look at what they have coming down the stretch, 3 of their final 4